Well, they had. Did you not see the guys watching the game from? They were walking up. Yeah, there was a couple of people. They had like a little firing can.
Yep. Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2 3 4. 1 2 3 4. Mic check 1 2 3 4 5 6. Check 1 2. Check. Good.
Coach McGuire. We'll take a couple of questions on that, and then we'll go to Oklahoma State from there. So, Kirby?
Yep. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for letting me come on the front end of Coach McGuire's press conference. Just a couple of quick updates on an ongoing game event management situation that we have related specifically to Tortillas, as well as the Big 12 Conference sportsmanship and fan behavior policy. So I would like to just share with the Red Raider Nation that as we move forward, we are no longer going to encourage nor permit the throwing of tortillas at the opening kickoff for our home football games. We control our own fate in every situation, on the football field as well as with our event operations. We know that as Red Raiders, no one tells us what to do. We make our own decisions, and we encourage actions because they are the right thing to do. And we have an opportunity, and we're on the cusp of a very special football season. I ask the Red Raider Nation to continue to give these players, this team, and all of our Red Raiders all of our support and energy to make sure we give them every possible chance to accomplish our goal of getting to Arlington for the Big 12 Conference Championship and the College Football Playoff. The moment that we sit in today is one that Red Raiders have dreamed about for a long, long time. And this team, Coach McGuire, his coaching staff, and our fan base has worked extremely hard towards this goal, and we can accomplish it week by week. So simply, we cannot risk letting our actions penalize our football team. The stakes are too high, and we need to help, not risk penalizing our team again for throwing tortillas. Simply, let's not do it. The situation is on me. I leaned into this of throwing tortillas at the beginning of the football season. Now I must ask everyone to stop, and I must ask our staff to enforce it on game days. I close and will turn it over to Coach McGuire by asking our students and our fans to continue to make Jones AT&T Stadium the best environment in college football. And I don't know how they will do it, but I am confident that our fans and our students are about to make the Jones even louder than it's ever been before. And I appreciate their support. Coach McGuire.
I'm right with Kirby. You know, I leaned into it also. You know, I believe in tradition. Y'all know I've said it a million times. I mean, there's no place in the world that I love more than this place. I'm so lucky to be the head coach at Texas Tech. And before get into the tortillas, I just want to read y'all something. This is from Skylar Gill Howard, you know, who is out for for the rest of the regular season for sure. And this was before the game, and he had saw a tweet on social media from one of our fans, and the fan said, "I went to Texas Tech because my dad attended. I never really was a sports fan until I got to go to a game with him. He died of a heart failure after my freshman year. I've been waiting better than a part of 20 years for a team like this. I can't express my joy." And so he sent that to our team, to all of our leaders. There's about 25 on this group text. And then he followed up with, "Remember what you're playing for is bigger than just you. Our dedicated fans have been waiting decades. When you go out there, don't only play for you, do it for the team and do it for all the Red Raiders that have been waiting. Just like it means everything to us, it's everything to them because of how much they love this university." And he said, "Love you, boys, and good luck." And I want y'all to know that's how our team feels. Like we're really lucky that we have a group of young men that, you know, this guy's been here since January, and that's how he feels about this university, and that's everybody on this team. And you know, I wished that we were doing this at 7-0. You know, it's frustrating, and I know everybody's frustrated that we're doing it, you know, coming off a loss, but it was going to be done. You know, we had been talking about this either way. You know, we went into a game to where we came out with a 15-yard penalty when we were here last time at home, and I told the team yesterday we have a 5-game season. I got that from Coach Stone. He sent me a text, so I appreciate Coach Stone sending me that. But we got a 5-game season, and 3 of those 5 are at home. And it's going to be extremely important to win at home and protect the Jones. And I know the fan base will get behind this. I still believe the last game, it was as loud as I've ever been a part of. The towels were really cool, so maybe it's the Pittsburgh tradition with the terrible towels, but the energy and how loud it was had nothing to do with Tortillas. It was a group of people, 60,000 plus strong, that were behind the team that they love. And so just ask that we get behind this and continue to get behind this team and get ready for a great game against Oklahoma State.
All right, we'll take only a couple of questions. Jarrett?
Yeah, Kirby, can you give fans an idea of what that enforcement in terms of allowing tortilla or not allowing tortillas in the stadium will look like?
Yeah, great question, and one that we will work on messaging as the week goes on and gets closer to Saturday. But we will, encourage and remind fans at the gate not to bring tortillas in. If they brought them, we'll ask them to discard them before they come into the stadium. We're also going to have reminders in the stands before kickoff. If you did somehow get tortillas in, please pass them to the aisles. We'll discard of them for you. And then, when the game kicks off, if somehow folks choose to still throw tortillas, we'll monitor, by the way, we always do, our event staff, personnel. We will also increase law enforcement to give us some eyes watching for enforcement. And then through our security cameras, you never want to do this, but if there are folks that decide to go ahead and throw tortillas and they are caught, we will suspend their ticket privileges for the remainder of this academic year.
Ty, right here.
Those ticket privileges go to all sports?
Yes, Ty.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how will security change at the gate? Obviously, kids can still put them in their boots, put them in their bras, whatever it may be.
Yeah,
Seems like he's done this before.
yeah.
I know my daughter did. I'm sorry. Way to go, Reagan.
Yeah, hey, we got the best fans and the best students in the country. We ask for their compliance and their help on this. There'll be, is there self-enforcement? Can we ask peer-to-peer to just remind Red Raider Nation to help this football team and help this team? So, we'll continue to do security and ingress as we always have. We're not going to increase that, but this season we have allowed tortillas to enter the stadium, so we're going to do our best to identify them and discard them before they come into the stadium.
All right, we'll finish with Cole in the back.
Kirby, do you get the sense that the timing of this is just a coincidence that it happens that you guys are having the best season in a very long time? Was that part of the crackdown from the rest of the athletic directors of the Big 12 Conference itself?
I can only speak for Texas Tech, and I will say this. Our brand has never been bigger. There's never been more optimism and elevation of the Texas Tech brand than there is today. I think that was evident on Saturday at Arizona State. I mean, we are the team that everybody is gunning for. They want to beat, and we want to be that team. We're going to lean into that. Those are our expectations. We want to be the team that when we're beat, their fans storm the field, because it means that much to play Texas Tech football right now. So I can just say hashtag 15-1 still exists. It's us against the world in this Big 12 conference, and our goal is to get to Arlington and to raise that trophy.
All right, that'll do it for this portion of the
Thank you,
press
boss.
Thank you, Coach.
I really don't have anything other than questions about the game, other than it's great to see everybody, which I've already kind of said.
conference. Questions, we'll go Sean and Jarrett. Oklahoma State.
Coach, your running backs were averaging 5 yards per carry versus Arizona State, but only had 12 touches. Why was that workload acceptable, and how do you change that for Oklahoma State?
Well, it wasn't. I think whenever you have Mac up here, that's one thing that we go back, and we feel like that we did not run the football enough. We need to be more effective. I think a little bit, too, was Whenever not necessarily 7-6, but whenever they started stretching it, we felt like that we had to create some explosive plays, try to grab some momentum. It's something. It's always something that if you could go back on that you wish you did. But I will tell you, I do think that, and I gave credit after the game, and I'll give them credit now. I thought that was the best tackling team that we faced, and I think sometimes whenever you're saying averaging 5 yards a game, you've got a couple big runs in there, and then you have a lot of 1 and 2 yard games. There was plenty of times that we thought we had things blocked up. We ran counter to our sideline, and it looked like it was going to be a big play, and it became 2nd and 9. If you really want to look at that game, whenever you go back and look at the numbers and everything like that, we were really bad. No matter what we did, we were really bad on first down. That's where the game, as far as the offensive, when you go back and watch film, is we were in a lot of 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8, and it was based on they played well up front and they tackled really well. I think that was one of the big takeaways after watching film was we have to be a lot better on first down.
How has your vertical passing attack philosophy changed this year?
Well, I know that one thing that we have to do, we've pushed the ball down the field more than we have the previous 3 years. And I think that's a change of the offense coordinator. But that was one thing that we have to do. I think, Will threw a great deep ball to Coy. But there was other ones out there. There's a touchdown to CD that's a crossing route, and, he kind of gets pressured, and, we've got to do a good job of making him feel good when he steps up to keep his eyes downfield. He ends up running on that ball, and if you go back and look, he'll be the first one to tell you he should have kept his eyes downfield, and it's a touchdown to Caleb Douglas.
Arizona State's ball control strategy held your offense to 7 plays and 13 yards, minute 46 in the third quarter. What adjustments do you plan to make to prevent that kind of ball control offense to keep your offense from the field in the future?
Well, I think it's what we did not do. If you could say, okay, they had ball control, but how many 3-and-outs did we have? Like, that's how you keep it from them having that kind of time of possession. Our defense had to play, and again, I'm not saying anything that Mac is not going to tell you, but our defense had to play way too many snaps. I mean, I think David Bailey played 72 snaps out of, I think we played 83 snaps or maybe a little bit more. Same way with Lee Hunter, A.J. Holmes, those guys. Well, it wasn't because they necessarily were driving the ball and they were on the field as much, is that we were 3-and-out a lot more than we have been all year long. So it was really us not being effective on offense and them playing really good defense that helped them have the ball a lot more whenever you start looking at that.
Coach, what's Barron's status and what's the plan for the quarterback room this week?
Yeah, so he ran yesterday in the pool, ran today in the Alter G. He'll run again this afternoon, and it'll be day to day, I was proud of him. He was a little bit better of listening. I wished he could have played. He wished he could have played. But we're going to take it day to day, to make sure that he's 100%. Because if you look down the stretch, again, we said it's a 5-game season. Our backs are against the wall from the standpoint of where we want to be. I know there's going to be other teams out there that there's going to be some crazy games in the Big 12 over the next 5 weeks, but we don't want those games to have any effect on us. We want to take care of our business and control what we can control, and that's beating Oklahoma State this week and getting ready for what's next. And so I think it'd be really important to have a really fully healthy Baron Morton. There's a couple guys like that are a little banged up. Can we get those guys as healthy as we can to get ready, for this week and the weeks to come?
Say you learned the most through adversity, a lot of adversity obviously last weekend.
Yeah.
What did you and the team learn about yourself?
I think, I was extremely proud of our guys. There was nothing that went our way in a lot of ways. I do think, when I say this, I do think that there's been I've been really impressed with the improvement of the officiating in the Big 12. I think it's one of the better years that we've had. But some crazy things that happened in the game that didn't go our way that way. There's some crazy things, bounces. We knocked 3 balls out, and nobody would have told me we wouldn't have got on at least one of those balls. We have an interception drop, that led to a field goal. So there was a lot of things that didn't go our way, and yet with 2 minutes left in the game, we took the lead. So what it showed me about the team is they're going to fight. There was never any kind of when you get in games like that and you don't have a strong game, you start hearing a lot of different things on the sideline. It was nothing like that. And then we're going to find out a lot about ourselves of how we're going to bounce back, and I asked our guys, yesterday whenever we had our team meeting, I asked them and the coaches. I was really proud of our coaches because they were already saying, hey, this is what I wished I would have done this. I wish I would have done this. I'm sure Shill and Mac are going to address it. So they took ownership. I took ownership right off the bat whenever the first thing in the team meeting, because what I asked our guys to do was when they went in and watched the game, were they the best version of themselves? Were they giving the best effort? Did they make any MAs, and how can they correct that and be better? I think that I found a lot about them that they were very acceptable. I walked down to practice yesterday with Will Jadis and Howard Sampson and Hunter Zambrano, and just their conversation with me is they understand we didn't play our best and we've got to play better.
Coach, you were just touching on the offensive line there a little bit. Last week, Max said that they had a really good performance against Kansas. How would you evaluate this past weekend's performance?
Yeah, I didn't think we played really well. The first sack that we gave up was a simple TE, a tackle in twist, and we hung on the tackle too long. We should have been able to pick that up, that ended up being a big play for them. We didn't get a lot of push. There was some stuff that they did well. There was a lot of times that we had really good pass pro, that Will had a clean pocket. I think they will take a lot of pride in running the football more effective this next week, and it's going to be really interesting. I told them yesterday we interviewed a young lady for our 5th trainer's job, and she was at Ohio State last year, and they beat Oregon. And I said, what changed from y'all getting beat by Michigan at the end of the year to just destroying what I thought was the best team in the country? And she said everybody in that building was pissed off. And like a different pissed off, like I'm not mad at my players or my coaches or anything. Like I'm pissed off at myself. I'm going to take ownership for that loss, and I'm asking everybody else in this building to do the same thing and be pissed off this week and from here on out, and seeing if we can't really have an edge on and it shows up on Saturday.
And you're talking about this next week as well. Obviously, the last couple of years for Oklahoma State hasn't really been what they're used to. But what do you see kind of from this team? Obviously, interim head coach coming into your building. What do you see from this team?
Yeah, I know those guys really well. I've known Doug Meacham for forever, and their DC, their MDC, Clint. He was at Kansas whenever Kenny and Juice were at Kansas, so know those guys really well. Really good coaches. It's tough in the world we live in right now. They kind of changed the rules, but they were grandfathered in the rules. They've had some guys exit. I thought and Cincinnati's a really good team. They're undefeated in our conference. They played Cincinnati really well. The running back, number 20, had a lot of yards, especially early in the game. They have a new OC. I think Doug's moved more into the head coaching role. They've got an OC. I thought he was really creative. He actually did some things that bothered us against Arizona State and some unbalanced stuff, so we'll have a good plan for that. We'll have to, because they've seen it on film, and we'll see that probably for the rest of the year at different times, just because that gave us some issues on defense. But, man, this is – Oklahoma State and Texas Tech are so much alike, and they've been playing each other for a long time. I think this was Coach McVay's hate game, from what I understand. So we've got a little video that will show the team from Coach McVay, and a message that he delivered years ago whenever he was here, and we'll definitely be showing that. And the guys that don't know who Coach McVay is, we'll make sure we explain it before we show the video, and the guys that do will really appreciate it. And so I know this is going to be a big game.
Coach, there are videos circulating of players or staff from Texas Tech getting a little bit physical with Arizona State fans. I'm curious if you have a statement on that, but also what your solution would be to these field rushes to allow for the opposing team to get off the field in time.
Yeah, I don't have a lot really to say other than whenever you are approaching some people that are in combat mode, that are as high of an alpha male as you can get, and they just got through playing a game, and you feel like that you can attack them verbally, and some necessarily. I'm pretty happy that my brother-in-law was around my wife at the end of that game. And I'm lucky that I have 2 Texas Rangers, and I had an awesome Arizona police officer with me. It's kind of one of those deals of it's just you got to be careful. You got to be careful in so many ways. And then rushing the field, I was really surprised. They're the defending Big 12 champs. So I was honestly, I was really surprised that they rushed the field. If we're fortunate enough to do what we're supposed to do and we're the Big 12 champs, no matter who we play next year, I don't think we should rush the field. It's a big game because we're in it, not because of who we're playing. And so I was a little surprised at that. I know I wasn't a part of it, but I was really impressed with Arizona State's athletic director. I think Kirby and Jonathan could tell you that they were doing everything they can. And then, sometimes I feel sorry for the security and the guys that are working, the police and everything like that, because it's a mob. There's thousands and thousands of people going on that field, and we've seen some really crazy actions on video the last couple of weeks. You had a student pinned under a field goal post. You had another student grab a hold of a football player's helmet. Just one of those deals. It's unfortunate. You got to be really careful. I don't condone any actions to where you are verbally attacking anybody. And when you do, you've made a choice right there to whatever happens after that. I hope our guys are men enough to walk away and everything, but I know this, they just got through playing a dang football game, and it was a war, and they're getting hit every single play, and some guy coming out of the stands and yelling all kinds of stuff. I heard every cuss word in America said to me, and, I just had I had some bodyguards, so I didn't have to try to defend myself or anything like that. So just got to be better. Got to be better. It's funny that we don't know them and they don't know us, but it's just a mob of hate that comes out of people's mouth in those situations. I don't know if that's the answer, good answer, right answer. I don't know. It's just amazing. In those moments. I imagine my 18-year-old self would have probably done the same thing. I hope I wouldn't, but maybe I would.
Someone looked at me a second ago.
Oh, wow. Here we go.
I got that. I know you typically the answer is you're worrying about yourself, but how difficult is it to prepare for a team like Oklahoma State that, like you mentioned, people have left? I mean, they've dealt with a handful of issues at quarterback. How do you get ready for a team? And I imagine a loss helps you focus a little bit more, but it seems like it would be a very difficult task this week.
Yeah, you said it perfect. I don't want to be where I'm at, so I'd rather be 7-0. Don't get me wrong, man. I'm frustrated as all get out. I truly believe. I think everybody does that are self-aware or are just aware of opportunities, and you never want to miss an opportunity or let opportunities slip away. So really frustrated with Saturday, but I think a loss helps. But in other things, like you can turn on the tape and there's an undefeated team, Cincinnati, and that running back, he rushed for I don't know, somewhere between 120 and 170 yards. I don't know. So he's good. Quarterback's going to be really athletic. He can run around. We played 2 athletic quarterbacks the last 2 weeks. At times they've hurt us with their feet, so we're going to have to do a good job with that. They're really multiple on defense, and so are we going to see their 4-down stuff more than we're going to see their odd stack stuff? That's what Clint did whenever he was at Kansas. They were at one point led the nation in turnovers whenever he was there. And so, I mean, it's difficult, but it does help that, we've got a bunch of guys that really need to focus and bounce back and get some momentum, grab the momentum back. I will say this, for us, I was appreciative. I thought at different times that we haven't had the respect throughout the year, but I was appreciative that the AP voters kept us where we were at and showed us some respect that, we haven't played anybody close until we did get beat the other day. And so that keeps us in a spot to where we can climb back in this thing.
Coach, you took the hit after the game for that 4th and 6 audible into the short side. Could you get some more insight into that?
Yeah, whenever I ask Mac, that's our speed option. We can go either way. And whenever they double mugged their backers, we felt like that we had it. I wished I wouldn't have said a word because we had, a slant to John Carlos that, of course, the play's going this way, so maybe it's not open, maybe it is. But in looking back on it, that was a better play call, and that was on me. I felt like that when they didn't have that backer, it was going to be Cam Dickey on the safety. Now it ended up being Cam Dickey on the safety. The defensive end played it really well. He made Will pitch the ball early, so he got involved, but then they ended up having 2 unblocked guys the way they played it out, and so I frustrated on getting involved in that moment.
Anybody else? I got one question.
Yep.
Go Chuck, then Don to finish.
Coach, could you talk about Will and his command of the playbook and how much percentage he has at his access?
Yeah, he has all of it. If Mitch Griffiths comes in, he has all of it. He does a really good job. He's growing. He does a lot of really good things. He's such an incredible person. He's very intelligent, and he does a lot of good things. And the difference whenever you're looking at quarterbacks is you've got a guy that's a 5th-year senior and you got a redshirt freshman, and Will Hammond will only continue to grow. I mean, Will Hammond did not lose that game. It was a collection of everybody in this program of how we got beat by Arizona State, and then Arizona State doing a really good job of getting their starting quarterback healthy, and him playing at a really high level. That quarterback played really well.
Go Collier, then Don to finish.
Back to the 4th down. Was there any thought of just kicking a field goal and getting points there, and then also on that last possession, maybe I know you were trailing, but was there any thought to maybe bleeding a little more clock?
The 2 is 1 on kicking the field goal. I think at that point we had still been down by 9, and we had not had the ball. Like, goes back to your question of, like, that was one time that we sustained a drive a little bit to where we get the ball. So you're looking at, like, can you get the ball back twice? Maybe you get the ball back once. How long does it take you to score? So going for it there, that's why we did, because of the points that we were down, was a part of it. The second part, I would never, I literally was like, I said, maybe we scored too fast, but I believe in our defense, But it was also, again, we hadn't been really effective, and so it was like, hey, we got the call, we got the back shoulder, touchdown, you go up. Now you're in a 2-minute drill. You think about that. Like, if you go back to that sequence, we have them 4th and 2, and we lose contain. on that play and we lose 0 on that play, and so we lose contain with our defensive tackle copping out, and then, kind of lose thinking, because the DB doesn't know now that we lost contain. So he's thinking that he's running an out route from the standpoint of you're in a 2-minute drill, so you're going to run outs to get to the sideline, and the receiver knows that we've lost contain, so he turns it up and we lose 0. So how do you do things different there? And then, we get a penalty that helps them get down to the 2-yard line that, ends up for their touchdown to go ahead.
Finish this up, Don.
Follow-up question regarding Will Hammond. Obviously, he's kind of had a small sample size so far in his career, but what do you make of, it started last year in the Liberty Bowl and started Saturday, obviously announced, well, the fact that he was starting, it seems like his better games have been coming off the bench. What did you make of that?
Yeah, I think that he's, again, he's a young quarterback that gives us, you think he played good against Arkansas, and we didn't have all our guys. He didn't have the benefit of playing with Taj Brooks or Josh Kelly. You come into Utah, he played well. Kansas, he ran the ball well. And Arizona State, he gave us a chance to win at the end. He's growing. He's got all the ability in the world. I will tell you, our team believes in him, and I think he's only going to get better. He's got so much talent, and we've got to continue as coaches to help him grow. And then the great thing about Will, there's probably nobody in the building player-wise that took his loss as hard as he did. There's a lot of guys that are probably similar, but man, he really cares about this team and wants to put us in a good situation.
Curious, it was announced an hour, 90 minutes or whatever before the game, a couple hours, that Barron was available on an emergency basis.
Yeah.
Though he wasn't suited up. Would there have been any circumstance where he would have actually gone back in and put the pads on?
It would have been if Mitch would have got, if we would have gone down 2 quarterbacks, then we would have put him in there, from the standpoint of him being at that point versus 2 freshmen, true freshmen, had never taken a snap in college football with the 2 that are going to be really good. We've been through that a couple years ago, and that was a nightmare. And so I still wake up sometimes thinking of that BYU game. We'll talk about that in a couple weeks. But, that was the deal. And one thing that we did, he was questionable, and we made sure the conference knew exactly what we were going to do. We weren't going to be the team that went against the rulings. It's we feel like that we are following everything whenever it comes to the IR report and everything like that, where I think it's been interesting how different people take liberties and, define the rules. We're all learning with this. We as coaches were not a part of these meetings whatsoever whenever it comes to the injury report and what available is and what questionable is and what's out. That was a conference deal that I even think our trainers and our medical staff were told this is what we're going to do. So we'll keep growing with that. But we felt like we did everything we were supposed to do whenever it came to making sure the conference knew exactly the availability and then putting it out, to where Arizona State knew exactly what we were doing.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Great seeing y'all. Thank y'all.
Great.
Coach, how does Oklahoma State's offense challenge you?
I think they're doing a really nice job schematically. I like what they're doing. They're doing Gosh, just a lot of different things from a formation standpoint. Quarterback run game, they're playing multiple quarterbacks. They've got some plays where the running back may be going in one direction with pullers going back the other way, where the quarterback could follow the pullers or he could give it to the back. So they've got a lot of trick plays or maybe some play actions off of their run actions. So it'll be a challenge for us this week for sure.
A.J. Holmes got the start, and how do you think A.J. performed?
I thought he played really well. I think A.J.'s played well in every game that we played, and that was to be expected. That's how he played last year. That's how he's been practicing all year. So I thought he played a really good game, and looking forward to seeing him play this week.
What do you feel like you need to improve on this week from past Arizona State?
From what's that now?
What do you still believe that the defense needs to improve on from the Arizona State game for this next week?
Just like every week, just continued consistency from a fundamental standpoint. And then, I think there were just some things that we got schemed and attacked with a little bit that we can learn from, maybe come up with a little bit better plan as coaches. And so every week, that's the same thing. Again, sometimes we've talked about in the past, there's things that show up that maybe could hurt you in games that don't, and then sometimes there's things that show up and they do hurt you. So every week as players and coaches, we just look to learn from any mistakes, whether that's game planning, how you're coaching something, or a technique maybe that a player's playing, and just try to improve. That's how teams get that's how you keep making progress. You just learn from the mistakes and try not to make the same mistake again.
Coach, there was a couple of times Arizona State got some big plays in the passing game, and Brendan was back there as a safety. But was it his responsibility in coverage in a couple of those plays, or was it something where he was cleaning up as a safety?
Well, I think that on those plays you're talking about, it really is my responsibility. I think he did the best job that he could do in the position that he got put in. They did a nice job of really, I think, working hard as a coaching staff to find something that they could go to. And I think that's what you saw on those two plays. So as I'm talking about things that we've got to learn from, that's kind of what I'm referring to.
And then did y'all play any different coverage or type defense on that last drive? And then specifically just maybe at in a 2-minute drill, do you play a different type of defense generally, or was it the same defense and just Arizona State made the plays?
Same defense that we had run throughout we mixed up the coverages and mixed up the looks a little bit, just like you would do in a 2-minute drill, but things that we had run during the ball game previously, and obviously we were trying to do our best to not allow them to get in the field goal range and win the game in regulation. The 4th and 3 play, we got them to 4th and 3, out of field goal range, and tried to go with a play to win the game, and it just didn't end up working out for us. So next time we'll try to execute better and have a better defense when we're in that situation again.
Y'all really haven't had any 2-minute drill type of experience in game. You finally got one at the end. What would you like to see improvement on from the defense now that you've had something to go look back on?
Well, we've had some 2-minute drills. We had one at the end of the half against Utah, where we forced a field goal, and in that situation. But again, just trying to get a stop. We got them to 4th down, and maybe it was 4th and 2, I guess, a long 2. But we got them to 4th down, and 4th down and pass in a 2-minute drill. That's what I was hoping to do, was get them into 4th down before they got in field goal range. We got it done, and then just came up short on that last play. And then unfortunately, not only did they convert the 4th down, but then they were able to get a little bit extra yardage down the field, and then things kind of unraveled from there. So, again, we've got a 2-minute plan every week, and hopefully next time we'll execute a little bit better, and coaching-wise maybe put them in a better situation to win that situation.
I know you'll usually not talk about it too much, but obviously the time of possession in that game, you guys were on the field a lot. With the mistakes, kind of, especially on that last drive, did that play a factor at all? Do you feel in some maybe the break of containment on that 4th and 2 and some of the plays that happened at the end of the game?
You're saying did the mistakes at the end of the game
just mistakes coming from fatigue or anything like that?
Nope. Our job as coaches defensively and as players is to go out there and get stops, and it doesn't matter whether we got to play 50 reps or 150 reps. You know, that's why we run to the ball each and every day at practice. That's why our guys prepare from a meeting standpoint as hard as they do and study going into each week's game. That's why they're in the training room right now getting extra work to recover so that, you know, for these, we got 5 ball games left. You know, we battled 7 times this season, and I've been really pleased with our preparation and our effort level. I think our guys are playing their rear ends off, and I think they did. We got, you know, I think what I'm probably most proud of, I'm kind of going off on a tangent, I guess, but we got back in that game. We took the lead, you know. It looked pretty bleak at a couple points there. I think in that 4th quarter we were down, was it 19-7 in the 4th? And we went back up 22-19, you know. And I wish I could have done, in my role, a little bit better job to help us, win that 4th and 2. But the resolve that our players had in that 4th quarter and that entire game to just continue to keep throwing punches and running to the ball and giving tremendous effort did not surprise me in the least. And I'm excited to see them do that again on Saturday coming up.
And kind of going off that too, you've had to learn a lot of things from a win, but how much did you learn about your defense off this loss and what they provided?
Well, I learned in adversity, they stare it right in the face, and they're not fazed by it. They just keep battling. And I'll be honest with you, I guess I learned that in a game for the first time, but that's exactly what I expected because that's who they are every day. And it's pretty cool to get to coach a group like that.
Any other questions for Coach Collier?
Ask Joey this, but when you've got a team like Oklahoma State that seems like they're just shuffling people in and out because of the obvious issues, I know you're more concerned about you guys, but does it make it more difficult to try to figure out what the heck they're going to do? You know what I'm saying? With quarterbacks going in and out and they don't know who they're going to have week to week.
I understand the question. Every week there's challenges. I even look at the last ball game. They had a couple of different quarterbacks that they played. So, yeah, maybe a little bit, but every week it's hard to win games. It really is. And there's challenges from a schematic standpoint. There's challenges from a personnel standpoint. And each week, coaches, staff, players doing their dead level best to be as prepared as we can be, and this week's no different.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
All right. Y'all have a good one.
Coach, your running backs were averaging 5 yards per carry, only had 12 touches. What came in with that? Was that Will checking out of the runs, trying to go into RPOs?
Yeah, kind of a combination of things. I think both those guys hit one big run each. That definitely boosts the average. I don't know if the consistency in the run game was exactly where we wanted it to be. I probably called maybe one too many QB runs instead of putting the ball in the running back's hands because they are good players and have been running the ball well. But yeah, I think kind of a lot of things. And then with we got into multiple 2-minute situations, and you get in the fourth quarter where you get down a couple scores, and you feel like you got to throw the football. So kind of the flow of the game got us out of the run game a little bit. Probably should have been a little bit more patient with it maybe in the first half.
Well, you talk about your patience. How did the patience of Will being able to play and get into a game like that where he's going to have to be a little more patient to make more vertical attacks?
Yeah, I think probably with talking to him, that's one of the areas that we wanted him to improve the most. I thought he was patient, and I thought he took what the defense gave him, and at times was maybe a little bit too patient, and want to see him cut it loose. Had a couple shot plays called that we checked down or he scrambled for yards, which is good, and he's keeping us on schedule. But when the defense provides opportunities for us to throw the football down the field, we got to be able to take advantage of that. So I got to do a better job coaching him and making sure that he's ready for those moments.
Speaking of Arizona State's defense, their defense held you to 7 plays, 13 yards, and a minute 46 possession in the third quarter.
Yep.
What adjustments are you trying to make to prevent that from happening in the future?
Yeah, we got to be better. I think really both of those drives, we got to be better on first down. So we had the drive coming out of the second half. We get the ball a little bit backed up. 1st and 10, we go, 1 yard rush. So we got to be better coming out of the second half, getting a good, good plan at halftime of what we want to start with, and then the next drive, we pop a big run to start the drive, and then we end up having an incomplete pass on an RPO on the second first down. So now you're sitting at 2nd and 10 again, and so I think being better on first down is the key to that, because that's what really, as you look at the flow of the game, we were unable to sustain drives, to your point, on the time of possession, which also, kills your defense because they got to go back out there after a 3 and out. So I didn't feel like we did a good job of keeping those guys on the bench and letting them rest. And a lot of that is just because we got in so many 3rd and longs. The whole day, you're in 3rd and 8 plus against a good defense. That's going to be really hard to overcome, consistently. And so we got to be better on 1st and 2nd down, finding easy completions for our quarterback, and or, having a better plan running the football. So got to be better, game plan of 1st and 2nd down to put us in better 3rd down opportunities.
Coach, how do you feel like the receivers have played in Big 12 play overall?
I think those guys are making plays. I mean, you look at, Coy Eakins competing. That I thought the catch that he made on that touchdown was an unbelievable play. And, he bounced back the week before, right? And he didn't have a catch and came back and had a really good game, I felt like. And I thought Reggie, for the most part, when he got his opportunities last week, he did great with him. The touchdown, that was an unbelievable throw and catch that those guys, him and Will, connected with at the end there, to put us up that last drive in the fourth quarter. So those guys are playing well. CD had the 100-yard game against Houston, so they're playing well. I got to do a good job of finding ways to get those guys the football.
And then that 4th and 6 audible, asked Coach about it, the option to the boundary right there to the short side. Can you kind of give us an idea of how that was called and just your thoughts on that play?
Yeah, it was a cover 0 check that we had talked about. So they gave us a cover 0 look, and we checked into it and didn't execute it very well. So not a great play call, and should have gone with something else.
Coach, what were the major adjustments made? Obviously, you got short field on the second touchdown to end the game to take the lead, but that drive that got you down the field with the Will Hammond touchdown run, what were the major adjustments that you guys made to just give easier throws to Will and allow that drive to happen?
Yeah, we played with a little bit more tempo, obviously, at that point in the game, which I felt like, probably in that first half, I wasn't in a great rhythm and got behind the chain, so I didn't feel like we could use the tempo, which has been such a big, part of our offense, to our advantage as much as we probably should have or would have liked to. And then in that fourth quarter, you get in a situation where, you kind of have to because the clock's running down. You got to score fast. And so I thought that put Will in a better rhythm and got him some easy completions, and we were able to move the football down the field. So I thought he did a great job handling that. As I was proud as bad when we played bad for the first 3 quarters of that game, but was really proud of the guys for the fight that they showed that fourth quarter, because that's hard to do. It's hard to do when you're getting stoned for 3 quarters and you're not having any success to keep believing and being able to to put the ball in the end zone when we needed to and to not give up. So was proud of the guys for that, but we got to be better for the first 3 quarters, and we got to start a lot faster than we did on Saturday.
And I asked Coach Wood about this, but in a similar way, you were kind of just talking about it there. But in a loss, you sometimes learn more about your team. What did you learn about your offense?
Yeah, I think that those guys aren't going to quit playing. They're going to keep believing. Back was against the wall. Before we went out there, in the fourth quarter, kind of brought them up and was like, man, this is when you find out who you are. Back's against the wall. We haven't had any success, and those guys rose to the occasion. So proud of them for that. And I think they'll take that film personal. They'll get things that corrected that they need to get corrected. I'll do the same. There's calls on in that game that I'm not happy that I made. That we can be better and be better in our game planning process and all those things. And I think we'll respond really well to that setback.
We know that Morton is still day-to-day, thus leading Hammond to start again this weekend. How has preparation looked like with him? How has he responded? And I'm curious, has Barron maybe stepped in, because that was his first true road game, and it ended in a pretty dramatic fashion at the end.
Yeah, man, I think Will is an incredibly mature kid, and so he has a really good ability to be able to take that how he needs to, learn from the loss, take the positives away, because there are a lot of really good things that he did in that game. And so take the positives, take the negatives, learn from it, and be able to flush it and move on. You got the 24-hour rule, so once that hits, we got to be on to Oklahoma State and can't let that loss drag into this week in the preparation. So just back to work like we do, and we just talked a lot about the process and not changing our process and freaking out, but just doing it a little bit better than we did last week.
The report that Hammond was going to start came out on Friday. Did y'all know prior, and I guess what were the words that Morton told you that made you sway towards Hammond?
Yeah, that was kind of a thing just all week. Barron dealing with the injury didn't get much practice time, so we were prepared for Will to start and Will to go out there, and I felt like he got enough reps and got enough prep to go out there and play well.
So if you could describe, I guess, the difference between what his training looked like last week compared to this week going into the Oklahoma State game.
He's a little bit ahead of what Coach said. He's already been on the underwater treadmill and did some stuff down there today. So he's definitely ahead of where he was last week. So we'll just kind of see how that thing goes, moving forward, and we'll make the best decision for him and for our team, later in the week.
Terrence Carter's been one of your go-to guys, especially in the red zone. If he were to miss time, how much do you lose there? And is that a situation where you just slide J.C. Miller in there, or is there more adjustments that you make just player to player?
Yeah, losing TC would definitely hurt. He's a really good player. Anytime you lose really good football players, you got to make adjustments. So it'll just we'll have to find some other go-to targets down there and on third down. So the good thing is we have very capable guys that can fill those shoes. So we'll find some ways to get those other guys the ball.
Coach, I noticed after the game on Saturday, I noticed you passed by me going into the tunnel. Joey was asked about it earlier, the fans rushing the field. What did you encounter getting to the locker room?
Yeah, just, it's one of those things, like, obviously being on the other end of that is not a lot of fun. The excitement and all of that goes along with fans rushing the field, after just taking a heartbreaking loss. So I just tried to kind of put my head down and get back to the locker room as quick as I can and regroup with the guys.
Anybody else? All right, thanks, Matt.
Yep, thanks.